A key feature of the first century churches was meeting once a week to remember God's plan of salvation through Jesus. In a way, this continued on the tradition of the Sabbath from the law of Moses, in which the Jews would stop their work on a certain day and rest. But for many people, the question of what day to observe the Sabbath has become quite the issue. Under the law, the Sabbath was observed on the seventh day of the week, Saturday. But today, most Christians worship on the first day of the week, being Sunday. In this video, we'll see what the Bible has to say about whether or not we should worship on Saturday, Sunday, or even another day. There are several verses which explain the way in which the law of Moses, of which the Sabbath was a part, is no longer binding. For example, Colossians chapter 2, verses 14 to 16, say that the law was nailed to the cross with Jesus and no longer needs to be followed. So even though the Sabbath law required observance on the seventh day, there is no biblical regulation that states that it should still be done that way. In fact, if we were to say that we need to keep the Sabbath, then we should also commit ourselves to keeping the other 612 laws found under the law of Moses. Instead, rather than place emphasis on which day we should worship, the Bible places emphasis on how we should worship. Isaiah chapter 58 is a chapter all about the Sabbath. It talks about how the children of Israel did everything that was required of them on the Sabbath day. They fasted, they stopped working, they bowed down their heads in worship, but to God, none of this was acceptable because they were doing all of it with the wrong spirit. At the same time as they were fasting, they were thinking only about themselves, oppressing others, and fighting with each other. What God was really looking for was for them to keep the principles of the Sabbath, to stop their wickedness, to let the oppressed go free, and to share their food with others. And not just on the Sabbath, but on every day of the week. So in the end, there's nothing wrong with worshiping on one day or another. It's important to meet regularly, but there is no command as to what day that should be done. Instead, the important part is the principle of the Sabbath, and that should happen every day of the week, and it's stopping from our own work in order to do God's.